satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth. Yeah, so it's funny because I think back on those early days of the internet sometimes. It's kind of wild that I started working like in the earliest days of the internet on websites and stuff. I remember doing like, I remember I think it was Verizon Wireless. I might not be remembering correctly, but one of the big corporations back then, it was at the very beginning, it was small businesses had websites, and big companies were like, the web's like a fad, it's a hobby, like,
right. Yeah, they're not going to spend money,
and they weren't paying attention to it, and so people bought all the domain names like for the big companies, and they had to buy their own names and stuff because they just didn't think it was going to be a thing. And I remember having to go out and buy the domain name, and I think it was for Verizon Wireless, if I remember correctly. For them, like they were a client, and they needed us to. They wanted a little website, and they needed us to build their. I'm remembering the company wrong. It wasn't Verizon Wireless. I'd have to go back in the Digital Wave portfolio and see who it was, but it was a big company.
And wait, so there were a couple of Bernathen-based firms. I know Andy Sullivan had one.
Yeah. He was theirs was in the same business campus as ours, yeah.
And who was Digital Wave? Was Tony and
Tony and this guy, James Horrigan.
Oh, I remember him, yeah.
And then Jonathan Grubb was there right before me. I remember the culture shock of like having come from the retail world where I was like a bookstore manager, at Borders. Like I had been in the independent bookstore world, but then like getting like minimum wage. I mean, it was a grind. And then so I took this job at Borders, and that felt bad. Like I felt like a sellout. Like my independent bookstore people were just like, bro, like it was a sellout move to like go to the enemy. You all right?
Yeah, no, I touched something and a bunch of emojis popped up in the middle of the screen, and I didn't know why. So
anyway, I was working, and then I went to work for Borders, and then because they had like a management track, and I could make more money. And so I did that. But retail is madness, right? Like I still have so much compassion for anybody who works in retail or food service or any of these jobs. Like it's such a red flag to me when I see somebody who is treating service people like shit, right? Like the retail clerk or the this food server or whatever. Like those jobs are hard. I was just running around, noisy, chaotic, customers complaining, always a problem, right? Like always a fire. And I remember, quitting that job and going to work for Digital Wave and showing up for my first day of work. It was like my first sort of company job. I didn't know even what that was like, right? And so it was a Monday. I show up on a Monday, and I think there were only 6 people who worked there at that time. And so I was like one of 6. And, it was our office was in a house on Paper Mill Road.
Wasn't it in like Larman photo at the bottom of the Pike? Were you there for a while?
Yeah, around that area. Yeah. And it was a converted house, and so I get there on my first Monday, and James and Tony were like, "All right, we usually start the week with we have a Monday morning meeting." And so go get your coffee or whatever. And I went and got my coffee, and we all convened in the living room, which was our kind of main conference room, right? And it was just so chill. I was just like, and I was getting paid like twice as much. I was always so bad at negotiating salary. I probably still am, because I remember coming from like minimum wage jobs and going to that job. And I think like they were like, how does 65 a year sound? And I was like, holy, in my head, I'm like, holy shit. That's the voice in my head. Like, they're going to pay me $65,000 a year for this? What? Like, it was just such an unbelievable figure to my mind. And so,
what year was that? Would that have been?
That was 98.
98. That was a lot of money.
It was fine, right? Like,
it was 30.
But like somewhere in my head, I knew I was also, like you're supposed to negotiate salary, right? And I didn't at all. Like I was just like, yeah, And then,
Yeah.
I got my next job. Same thing. I don't remember how much they offered me, but like it was the same thing went through my head. Like each successive job was a little more than the previous one, right? And I just never was good at being like, oh, I should ask for this, right? It just seemed like, anyway.
I have a story to, so I only had one corporate job myself. And I did it for 7 years, and it felt like, in the Bible, doesn't one of the kids have to work for 7 years to marry someone? Anyway, it's very biblical feeling to do 7 years in the wilderness. Anyway, so, and I kind of
got the 7-year itch.
I slid in the back door. Like this one of the guys got cancer, and his doctor said, you can only work 2 days a week. You have to rest. So they're like, hey, do you want to do the other 3? So I did that. And then the creative director quit or like got into a huge fight right in front of everyone and had to be walked out with the security. So they were like, do you want his job? And I was like, sure. And I remember I had a friend who had been there for like 40 years or something, or in that business, like labs and did diagnostics. And he was like helping me negotiate. He was like, oh yeah, you got to say, I want 120, So I was like, oh yeah, I'll say I want 120. And there, and the woman who was, I thought she was my friend, but the HR woman put the phone down and didn't hang it up. And I heard her say to her friend, who I thought I was friends with them. She was Mexican, and she was like, "That arrogant son of a bitch! What an asshole!" And I was like, "Whoa!" And then later on, I found out that like that's not it at all. Like anyway, my point was like I've only had one experience negotiating, and I didn't get it. And I heard the HR person call me an arrogant asshole, and then they fired my whole team and gave me like a $25,000 raise just to kind of make up for it or something. Like every time that I had a bump, it was nothing to do with me negotiating. It was just like an accident, and it kept happening, And I feel like I'm terrible at negotiating my rates too. But
I always had people advising me and stuff, and I just could never pull it off. Like it just like, and this, part of it's sort of like this imposter syndrome where it's like, I'm just a dude, like. I remember like we've talked about this before because this is like one of my core memories, like Inside Out. One of my core memories is sitting with you playing music in the stairwell and us, in between songs in New York, right? In our building. And in between songs, chatting about like our future and, what if this sort of like our artistic aspirations didn't work out? And I remember saying like, well, I guess I could just go work for a company. Like I had this fantasy that, it's not that hard. Like I know people that work in corporate America and they're not the smartest people by any means. Like it doesn't seem that hard. Like if they can do it, I can do it. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Like I had no conception of the fact that you go to school for a certain degree that teaches you how to do a certain kind of job, right? Like, like I understood the notion of credentials, like people want to hire somebody who has the right credentials, but I didn't understand that credentials actually map to like actual knowledge and skills.
You know what I mean? It's true.
So like, I thought, well, I'll just go work for a company. And it's so funny that that's basically what happened. Like I did my shit for a while and then it was like, oh, I need more money. And I went to work for Digital Wave. And that was the change. That was the pivot, right? Or I started working for quote unquote companies. And I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was making it up the whole time. I wasn't educated in any of that stuff. And so like I definitely had a persistent imposter syndrome feeling all through that, which I think, that's really the core of why I was bad at negotiating. There was always a part of me was like, I don't deserve this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why me?
Yeah, and I think it's pretty, imposter syndrome is very common, obviously. People say. I certainly have it too. And I think two things. I remember my parents telling me that I didn't really want to go to college at one point. I wanted to like go to Jamaica or I had this like weird dream that I would go play guitar and work in a recording studio in Jamaica. That was like, remember when we were like we played hacky sack and we were into like the reggae.
Rastafarian culture and
my parents were like, no, music. You need to get a liberal arts degree If you don't want to get like another degree, you need to get a liberal arts degree, because a liberal arts degree teaches you how to think and research and find out something you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what a company is looking for. So like, if
and
you
it's totally true that like business leaders and political leaders like are predominantly humanities majors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's absolutely true.
And
it does occur to me. What?
It teaches you how to communicate, because you have to write well, formulate your thoughts. Like,
absolutely. It teaches you a tolerance for complexity and ambiguity, and it teaches you a certain kind of curiosity, right? Like, I think that when I think about there's a machine going next door. It's going to be really loud for the next little bit, but
I can hear it.
Okay. When I think about, some engineering friends that I know, or software engineers, or, even people who've advanced pretty far and pretty high up in that, from that background, a lot of them are very binary thinkers. Like they don't have they're not good at sort of navigating complexity, ambiguity, right? And so I think like that, the humanities teaches you that kind of stuff. Empathy, right? Like if you're going to be a good leader, you need, like, empathy is despite what, Elon Musk says about it, it's a pretty important skill to have as a leader.
Yeah. It's true. And anyway, yeah. So the liberal arts thing, that like is that was the idea. But I feel like at this point, your story that you're telling us is like that this disruptive thing came along, the internet, and there at that point, like, you couldn't get a degree in the internet. You know what I mean? Like,
no, absolutely.
So it was like totally brand new.
I remember that starting to happen. Like, I was working in what was called, like, the titles were shifting around. Like, you would, because people were just making shit up. Like, what is your job title, right? And so at Digital Wave, I started as a web designer, but then my workstation was literally one end of Tony's desk. He was the CEO. Or no, he was the head of design, right? And chief creative officer or whatever. And so I didn't have my own desk. Like I had my laptop on the end of his desk. Wow. On one end of his desk.
That's
and
legit.
And what quickly kind of became apparent was that we didn't need a designer. Like, he hired me as a designer, but like, he did all the design, and there was not too much work for him, right? Like, so, like, I sort of fell into a gap that I discovered, which was that these companies that were doing websites back then, websites were mostly about content, right? They weren't about doing stuff on a website. It was about reading stuff on a website. That's what they were at the beginning. And so all these companies that were doing their very first website, a lot of them had, tons of marketing collateral and other stuff that they'd written. And they were trying to figure out, like, what do we put on our website? We need an About Us page, and we need our product listing page or whatever, right? Like, what do we do and who we are and just all the shit you find on a website. And so, there weren't a lot of websites back then to even use as a model, as a sort of a template for what should even be on a website. So my job was what later became called content strategist, where you're sitting with the client and you're sifting through all their content and you're trying to figure out, like, what stuff should go on the website and how it should be organized. But then the other part of that job that I became really interested in and good at was, there's a whole sort of like workflow process for like trying to figure out, like, who owns this content, who writes it, how does it get published, which of this content will be stable for a long time versus what needs to change on a regular basis and be updated, and who updates it and how often, and where does it come from, and how does it get reused by other systems, right? Like, it's like, well, I'm going to write this marketing blurb for this one product, but for the website, but we should also use that same blurb for our, brochures or whatever, right? Or vice versa. And so I became really good at, like, putting together these, like, very complicated workflows for how a business managed a website and managed its content. And that didn't have a title, right? And then I went to work for a new company, and my title became information architect, is what that title became called, right? It's like, the person who takes all the information and figures out how to put it together, and then, then it became interaction designer and then user experience designer. Now it's more product designer. But back then, user experience designer was this very holistic job where you had to understand like there was a degree that you could get in rare universities called human computer interaction, HCI. And Jeff Raskin, who was like the famous Apple, like one of the famous Apple designers from way early days, had written this book called Human Computer Interaction. And so like university programs, a couple of them existed at maybe Stanford, maybe Berkeley, like in the Silicon Valley, kind of like in the Bay Area. There was one or two, but yeah, it became a thing that you could get a job. I mean, get a degree in at some point. User experience design or product management. Those weren't things that you could get a degree in. It's funny how that. And I watched all that spring up. And when I talk to people in interviews now, like I'm always on the fence about like, do I sort of convey the depth and length of my experience? Like I've done this for a long time, since the earliest days of the web. And there's that has value. Like all that experience has value. At the same time, when I'm talking to some 30-year-old hiring manager, right? Like I've been working on the internet almost longer than they've been alive.
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
And so it's like, I know what that would feel like on the other end. Like, who's this old fuck? Like, could I manage this guy? Could I be his manager? Like, that would be weird. Right. Yeah. So I know that's what might be going through that person's head. So like, I'm always in this weird conundrum of like, how much of that tenure in this field do I convey in the interview? Because I just want the job. Like I can do it, whatever. Like, but yeah, if I'm the 30-year-old hiring manager on the other side, I get it. Like you just want to vibe with your employees, and you get this old guy who's been working on the earliest, since AOL, right? It's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I've been looking at like I have Indeed or what's LinkedIn will chuck me things on an email like based on my criteria, and typically just because my experience is all creative director and I've changed my thing to filmmaker. Like I really only want to shoot film and edit film and like that. So, but I keep getting these. I will say this: the salaries for the creative directors have tripled in 15 years.
Really?
Like it used to be, the creative directors used to be, and you know what was really interesting? When I was a manager at Roche, they gave me like this sort of secret salary sheet. Like it was all like the different levels you could be for different positions and stuff. And I noticed that, and I felt terrible. I told my wife that I felt terrible for the scientists. The scientists were like 25 to 30% less across every single position than the marketing people. And I just was like, the whole business.
That's such like a almost like a symbol of America in a way.
Yeah, because my thing was like this company, they sold,
or just capitalism.
They invented scientific products for cancer research and diagnostics, and that's what they were selling. And I was like, these are the people, you're treating these people like crap, and these are the people that make you the product that you sell. Like they're the ones that invent it,
Yeah.
And so it was weird for me to see that, and but yeah, so it is interesting how I guess there's in a certain niche, there's a lot of people looking for. There's not a lot of positions that are like senior creative director. There's a lot of people that don't have 25 years of experience. And so when they're looking for that position, like they're really cranking up the salaries. Like it's tempting to do it for like a year just to like,
it's funny because out here, like it's hard to get director level positions because there've been so many layoffs at every company. And so there's just like a million product management director level people floating around the market looking for jobs, and a million creative director people floating around looking for jobs. So like, it's definitely the opposite here in terms of just, the competitiveness for that level of job for anything with the director title or above. And, despite the fact that I've been at that level, like pretty much anymore, you have to be promoted from within. Like, you know, unless you're a total rock star and you've kind of distinguished yourself as like, you're getting a job in a healthcare software startup as a product director. And for whatever reason, you have shown yourself in your career to be like you're published articles and you are a thought leader in that space and you are just seen as like this guy is the genius of that domain, yeah, then you can get that director job. But if you're just a really good product manager and have been a director of teams, no, not so much. You're never going to get that director job.
Since we're like reminiscing about jobs, I remember there was one I was offered. A friend of mine was the lead. He was the code for hardware for Theranos.
Yeah, I remember you
Remember that? Yeah,
you were talking to Theranos. There was a time when
yeah.
I had only heard of it and I didn't really know much about Theranos in their early time and I wasn't following their crazy story. But I remember you reaching out to me and being like, hey, there's a chance I could move to the Bay Area. I'm talking to this company called Theranos.
Yeah. And the kids my daughters were at Stanford, and Theranos' office was like across the street from Stanford, like so close. So I was like, this would be so fun. And anyway, so and what was actually the only thing that was attracting me really was that they were hiring, or they had lured away the Apple creative genius from Chiat Day that did all the Apple ads.
Yeah.
So I was going to have a beer and a burger with him and the coder because they were friends. And then he canceled for some reason. And then I ended up not going to dinner with him. And then all the shit hit the fan. Like I remember the shit blew up, and at first we didn't know how bad it was, right? Like she was like, there was some complaint in Phoenix where they were like, hey, I think that you got a lot of the things wrong. And I think that they actually were sending the samples to like another commercial lab and pretending it was their product, like their thing.
Yeah.
Which
they were
is
doing
like
that.
fraud. Like it was just total fraud, right? And they were claiming that like in one drop of blood, they could get 250 results or something. Anyway, so I've sort of bullet dodged because I could have gone to work for Theranos, which might have actually been a really cool like experience like as a writer.
It's really interesting to think about. Man, the machine is crazy. It's a dryer it's a washing machine on the other side of this wall. Like I'm relegated to my office right now because my whole family's here.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
But my wife's doing laundry and it's in spin cycle. So it's like, you know how the washing machine's like,
sorry, I can't hear
it. Bang. It's like banging against the wall. Anyway, it's interesting to think about whether people who worked at Theranos during that time, unless you're like, Elizabeth, what's her name? Holmes, or one of the executives who really was in on the whole. I forget the other guy's name that she was like a partner with sometimes.
Her like former boyfriend guy. Yeah, I remember. He was
But if you're like at the top of the company and you're in a management tier where you know that you're committing fraud, like that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you're just an employee there on the rocket ship that like goes sideways, I wonder if that being on your resume is a bad thing. Like, I wonder if those people like, because they just work there, right? Like,
I don't think it's a bad thing. Although, so like my friend who was part of like the Diamond Mountain Buddhist community, that's how I met him. And he would admit to you that he was like, my daughter would call us in the sort of Swedenborgian church, like cult adjacent, like people who are sort of primed to like be in a cult because we just grew up thinking like hearing this stuff and trying to believe it. And so he said when Elizabeth Holmes would walk in the room, his heart would start like fluttering, like he was
having like sort of starstruck kind of fluttering.
Yeah. He just was like, when she talks, I can't believe how she's going to revolutionize diagnostics. She's going to bring this
She was really good at that.
She's really good at that, right?
And that's that's the thing that Elon Musk is really good. I mean, there are executives that their main talent seems to be sort of convincing people.
And
right?
telling a story that everyone wants to hear.
Like telling a story and getting like a following of true believers, right? Like that's Elon Musk's whole success story, right? Because you look at the actual business fundamentals of Tesla or SpaceX and Twitter or X or whatever, like they should be toast.
Right. Well,
like it's just like people are buying Elon. They're not buying any of those things.
It's true. No, and again, like the 94 to times the earnings it's like a meme stock. It's not really like you're not buying. Anyway, Wait, so back to Elizabeth Holmes. So one thing is, remember, she dropped out of Stanford in her halfway through her first year. But keep in mind, I haven't like really dug in and read.
That was
the
almost
whole,
like seen as a strength, like Zuckerberg. There was a whole like
like
there
Steve
was
Jobs
a whole
did it.
generation of business leaders that were like, "Oh, you dropped out, cool." Like that
I didn't
was
have time for that shit.
that was a plus.
Exactly. Like Steve Jobs, Reed, he dropped out of Reed.
Yeah.
Anyway, so but her professor convinced her to drop out, and I don't know the reals. We never really hear about him. I feel like he might have been a charlatan. And I don't know that part of the relationship, but I asked my friend who was not a scientist, he's a coder. I said, so does the drop of blood, could that thing that she was selling that everyone wanted to believe was true? Because that's really what she did, was she came up with a story that even if it's not true, you wish it was true. That you could, that you could really find out 250
like you could
things.
imagine someday it will be true.
Yeah, sure. And I said, how
Which
close
is like,
were we?
that's Elon's thing too. It's like someday we will be able to fly to Mars and live there.
Totally.
Right? Like, but like,
why?
it's
such an ugly place.
Yeah. Right. But anyway, but that it's like this, it's this interesting thing about like selling a vision of the future that people buy into.
Can I just say, if you were going to go to Mars, like, why not just go to the Gobi Desert and like build a place there? Like, why? You know what I mean? It's so far away, and you get radiation poisoning, and it's like when you get there, it's just crap. It's like a total desert. There's no trees. There's not. I don't know. It's weird. That whole thing. Okay, so back to Elizabeth Holmes.
Anyway,
so she goes.
Elizabeth Holmes. Yeah.
I said the drop of blood, 250 tests. What's going on, and like how close was she, or how close was the team to making that a reality? He goes, put it this way. When you plunge a solid object through the epidermis into the body, the body has an inflammatory reaction that's kind of like a tidal wave. And it sends inflammatory markers and all sorts of clotting factors and crap that just comes piling at the wound. So he goes, if you had done it like in a pure vacuum with like, he goes, there's conditions that are impossible to create on the earth where it maybe would be free for just a split second of all that junk. But he's like, you're basically just like picking like a needle in the middle of a haystack that's bouncing along in a car under the moon in the dirt road, like in some dusty place. Like, it's just impossible to find these things, right?
Yeah,
because there's so much crap that floods in. And he goes, if you
and you're only dealing with a drop of blood, like because when in traditional blood work, like I guess what you're doing to sort of like counter that problem is that you're taking enough blood.
Exactly. So that was the problem, is they take 5 vials so that they can run it so that the amount of noise to signal is really low, whereas hers was like all noise and no signal.
Right.
So, but you can't say to someone like, sit down in this chair, and with a machine, it's going to take like 3 vials of your blood. And you know what I mean?
And then you're not differentiated from, Quest Diagnostics or whatever, where they were sending this stuff anyway, right?
Phlebotomist, is that what they're called? The blood taker.
Like then you're not doing anything new at that point. You're just like, I made a machine that takes your blood instead of
automated a manual process. Yeah, okay.
Instead of a person that takes your blood. Like that's not enough to get like, George Schultz to be your, advisor.
Yeah, no, pardon me. So it was really funny that, I mean, in some ways, I look at life like, I remember, we were talking about this like a year ago. Carl Sandburg, the guy that wrote the Lincoln biopic.
Yeah.
But he had written this essay once about, like, he said, like, get a job as a mailman and flipping burgers and just like kind of basically be like a beat. Maybe he was like saying, be like a beatnik and get to know the world, and don't try to just like, aim for the golf course. Like basically it's what I got was like, don't aim for the golf course, because life is much more interesting than that. And if I had gone to work at Theranos, I would maybe be writing like a TV show about it, like a series. It was so,
who knows?
It was so interesting, that what happened there,
I think you should write a TV series about your Waldorf school. That would be like a sitcom about the Waldorf school.
That would be really funny. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The other thing I think, other comedy thing, and I don't know that could be a comedy writer, but I think a really funny one was, so when you go to like have you've been to a Buddhist retreat or some kind of like meditation retreat. You know, like the Buddhists, like everyone's trying, because they believe in karma, they're trying to like generate good karma. So they're like holding the door for you and they're like fighting over you first, like giving you things, you know? So I thought there was a lot of people, because Geshe Michael Roche in the Diamond Mountain community came from New Jersey and New York, right? So there were a lot of, I guess, like meditation groups that would say, hey, you're really into this, you should go out to Arizona. Like that's where the main place is, right? So you had a lot of these wild like guys from like the Jersey Shore,
like type A New Yorker types,
dudes, or like just dudes that were like had no interest in, and they would get there and they'd be like, dude, everyone is being so nice to me, like I could take advantage of this, like I could just get free food and these girls will sleep with me. And,
that dynamic is perfect for comedy.
It did. And I met a couple of guys that were like that, and I thought, oh, this would be a funny show, like. And also John Friend, remember the yogi John Friend that went down in flames? I used to work for. He was like that in India. Like he was this really arrogant. He claims he was like the youngest certified teacher for BKS Iyengar. And he got sick, and they said, you should go up to Guru Mai's ashram because they have this incredible bakery there. Like a French woman makes pastries, and if you're like sick of Indian food, just go there and they'll make you all this American food. And they don't charge you; it's free. Everything's free. So he just went up there and he was just eating all this stuff. And they finally came up to him and they're like, "It's free, but we have this kind of karmic thing called seva, where you're supposed to like do volunteer work in exchange
in order
for
to
the
earn
freedom,
it,
kind of so he was like, can I just work in the cafeteria as a cashier? And they're like, okay, if you can pick whatever you want. And he's like, then I just sat there and eating all the pastries while I was working. It's pretty funny. Anyway.
Have you watched any of these? I don't know how much time you have, but maybe you need to go soon. But have you watched any of these? I've seen a lot of clips of World Cup visitors experiencing America.
Oh no, I haven't.
And compilations of them. There's so many good ones, but like. I think that, like, first of all, I just will say this. Like, I was one of the people who was like, people shouldn't come here for the World Cup. Like, with the way we're treating immigrants and all this. Like, I was definitely like, it's going to flop. Like, nobody's going to go be at the games. And they shouldn't come, and it should die a death, right? FIFA's like a terrible, evil organization and all of it, right? So I was one of the haters. That having said that, like they did such a good job of preparing different cultures with different parts of America. Like to put all the Scotland people in Boston was just like chef's kiss, like that's so perfect, right? Like, and there've been so many clips. Like there was a clip of they were at a Red Sox game. Like they filled a whole section of the ballpark at the stands at a Red Sox game. All these Scottish fans, and I guess over the PA system or the music system, they played the Proclaimers, like I would walk
1,000 miles.
Yeah. And so this group of Scottish fans, like just were, because that's a Scottish band, the Proclaimers, right? Yeah. They start singing. And like after the song ends, they're still just like at the top of their lungs. Like the sound is filling the whole ballpark. And just like the rowdy Scottish fans singing that song, like to the end and starting it over. And then, there was another clip of them in a bar where they're all singing Sweet Caroline, the Neil Diamond song. And just like they're just overwhelming the bar. And apparently there was another bar where they drank all of its beer. Like it ran out of beer. So that's the Scottish fans. And then there was the Japanese fans in Texas, like Dallas, Texas, another one. Like to put the Japanese fans in Dallas, Texas, and they're like experiencing Texas barbecue and like fucking Buc-ee's, roadside restaurant. And there was a Japanese guy who posted on Twitter, and this tweet went viral, but it was this whole thing he wrote about like he went to a Mexican restaurant and they brought the free like the chips and salsa, and he just started eating. Because in Japanese culture, it's like rude not to finish food that's in front of you.
Oh, really?
So he was eating the chips, and then they replenished the bowl, and he's like, I did nothing to earn these chips. They came unrequested, unearned. And he's eating the chips, and he's like, and then he's like, I couldn't eat my food. By the time my food came, it wasn't about enjoyment. It was about survival.
Oh,
Like he was
poor
trying to
guy.
get through the meal because he was like, I
Ate
was
way
so
too
filled
many
up on
chips.
chips.
That's so sad.
Anyway, just stuff like that. There was an Italian guy who discovered like free refills on soda, and he just like had like 15 glasses of Coke, and he was just like,
Whoa,
his friend was
dude.
like, bro, like stop. He's like, but I could have 1,000 of these.
I heard this
Anyway,
the Scottish guys on, I think it was
yeah.
NPR, and the guy was saying how they were too cheap to get hotel rooms in Providence, Rhode Island. So they stayed in Boston, which was cheaper, and then they rented 6 school buses, yellow school buses.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and we bought beer, and we bought
That's so awesome.
$16,000 worth of beer.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's so great. Yeah. Anyway, so this has been my favorite. Like my favorite thing I think about the World Cup is just watching these clips on the internet of like foreign visitors experiencing random like British people having their first Chick-fil-A sandwich and thinking it's like God's gift to humanity. You know, it's just it's just a fast food chicken sandwich, right? Just stuff like that. It's just really it's fun stuff. Anyway,
It is fun. It's certainly fun to watch other people enjoying your country, that because then it reminds you how good it gets.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Just a funny non sequitur, but like, you know how Obama's library museum was
The Obama Center or whatever.
I didn't really watch any like
No, I didn't watch
speeches,
it either.
but Stephen Colbert attended the event and wore a tan suit.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, I love it.
Do you remember when Trump won the first time, beat Hillary? And Stephen Colbert and Trump was claiming that Obama had bugged the White House, like had put bugs in TVs and in like even in the kitchen somewhere, right? So I think they said that he bugged the microwave, which is why. So Stephen Colbert had a microwave brought up onto stage, like mounted, and then he had a camera inside it, and he opened the door and he was looking around and he goes, Barry, we miss you. And then he tried to climb into the microwave.
That's funny.
But it was like we all felt the same way. We were kind of like, if you could talk to Obama through a bug, you know, that you felt that was in the microwave, you'd be like, can you come back? It sucks.
Totally.
Oh, man.
I have to say I've soured a lot on Obama, but yeah, I mean, just in terms of his character, there's no, I mean, I miss that kind of character.
Right.
Like we've speaking of bugging the White House, like now when you mentioned that, like as I was remembering that, it just occurred to me, like, in a way, it's kind of weird. Like the amount of attention Trump likes to have on himself, right? It's in a way, it's kind of weird that he didn't turn his presidency into a reality TV show where there was just like just like a camera crew
always following
in the
him
White
around.
House, following him, and like cameras in every room, and like you could totally imagine like MTV White House, right? Like
totally, dude. It's funny that I've never heard anyone.
It's interesting. Yeah,
that.
I never thought of it either. But like, yeah,
because like the Kardashians and Bozzy and all these sort of follow everyone around kind of shows. That
and just him with his apprentice shit and all that. Yeah. Like he loves attention. You'd think that like, it's in a way it's weird that he didn't do that. Actually,
it is pretty weird. And like Mark Burnett or someone didn't suggest it and get permission to at least do like Camp David, you know, the Camp David show when they go there with the whole family.
It's not too late. It's not too late. We could do like just the sort of the end of the Roman Empire kind of version of a reality show, just totally like the last days of America, but as a reality show.
I wonder though. I wonder how, like, you know, because Trump didn't even go to Don Jr.'s wedding. Everyone thought that was kind of weird. Like, why didn't he go to the wedding?
Yeah.
It was in the Bahamas. Maybe that's why.
I mean, he's trying to turn Don Jr. into himself, I guess. Like, that's probably, you know, his story.
That's true. That's true.
He was unloved. He says he has like like an unfillable black hole is what Trump is, right?
Have you ever watched...
I mean, there is a part of me, there's one like sliver of me that sometimes emerges, that sometimes I can see in myself, where I do have some amount of compassion for Trump, and I feel a little bit sorry for the guy.
Yeah.
There's a level where I do genuinely feel that, and it's like, I wish we could go back in time and give the man some therapy and love.
Right. Have you ever seen, Colbert was the producer, but I wasn't a writer, but it was called My Cartoon President.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, I remember
this
that.
show was brilliant, man. They were like,
I never watched it, but I remember that it
they would
existed.
spin stuff up like right after something happened, and they would like make a whole episode about it. And they had a recurring character that was Trump's father that would visit him from like as a ghost. And they would, and he would. It was revealing the backstory of like how he was always seeking
like his
approval.
villain origin story, kind
exactly.
of thing.
And it was like you could see in these kind of fantastical interactions between the ghost dad and Trump late at night. You know, like it was, I guess, an attempt to sort of explain what we're seeing in the real world, like how crazy he is. But anyway,
it's interesting.
There will be a time.
I had an ayahuasca trip one time where, like, you know, like I see things and experiencing things on these ayahuasca journeys. But I did have one a few years ago where it was like all Trump. Like he just kept appearing to me.
Oh, weird.
And I was just like hours into it. I was like, I don't want to see you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, but it was all about that. It was all about like, this guy is the emptiest, saddest, you know, most damaged guy you could imagine. And I remember feeling like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's sad. It's really sad. And I felt it genuinely. At the same time, I was just like, okay, I get it. Like, can we move on from Trump in this journey now? But
you know, we always talking about,
kept wanting to show me Trump for some reason.
Mamacita. You know how we're always there's a constant thing in the last 10 years of how there's like a decline, like that he has neurodegenerative decline.
Oh
but
my
it
gosh,
never
it's
like
been really apparent, like recently in these G7 appearances and stuff. My God.
I mean,
anyway.
I wouldn't say like I saw, what's it? You know, one of the things like dementia or something. But he's definitely like an old dude that just isn't quite clear what's going on. You know, and he reveals it pretty well. He'll say things like, just yesterday he was at Versailles signing the
signing his retreaty of Versailles.
So funny that Macron made him do it there, just you know, because Trump doesn't have no history, so he's like,
no, he doesn't.
Oh, I think really great things happened here. Like anyway, so he says something like, yeah, I signed it, and they gave him supposedly a Farsi copy that he signed. So he didn't even read, like it wasn't in English. He just was signing like a Farsi
just
copy.
Putting his name.
Just to be anyway. So the funny thing is, he says to the reporter, he's like, you know, I guess that was, she was asking a question like, is this part of the thing? And he goes, I guess so. I mean, I didn't read it, so I don't know if it's in there. I don't know what's in there, but I'm sure it's in there. You know, like he literally.
It's amazing. I mean, when you see stuff like that, like him on stage talking about how, I just saw one little clip and he's standing in front of a mic and he's got Marco Rubio beside him and he's saying something about how, you know, like, what am I going to take away all Iran's missiles and like Saudi Arabia can have missiles and not Iran? Like, that's not how it works, right?
No, it's crazy. I saw that.
You got like Rubio, right? I mean, Marco Rubio right there. And you just think like the level of ride or die that these guys still have with Trump.
Know,
like,
it is impressive.
It's so weird that they wouldn't just totally, like, that is so against anything Rubio would ever think, right?
I know.
Like if he had any principles at all. And so, and then you see Vance, the same thing, like.
Yeah, they're ride or die. It is
they're
impressive.
Just the level of ride or die that they still have after all of this. Like he's so unpopular right now. And he just keeps doing like more self-destructive, dumb shit. And you just go, what would it take for like Rubio to be like, like we, you know.
I'm retiring. Like I'm like, well, pulling a Tulsi Gabbard. Like I got to get out of here because my husband
either
has
that or just trying to sort of like make his own move, like to be like, hey, like there are enough people out there who recognize the dumb destructiveness of this that I'm going to stand up and be the smart guy that they go, oh, thank God Rubio's there.
Right. Yeah.
Or whatever.
Because
like
it's humiliating.
Like I'm going to speak out against this craziness.
Right.
And to trust that there are enough people out there that would be like, oh, yeah, finally a voice of reason. Look at somebody who's competent up there.
Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy.
But it just speaks to what MAGA is still. It's like they still are aware that there's so many people out there that are ride or die with Trump, that Rubio is not confident that he could go against Trump and be that voice of reason without getting essentially rejected by the mob. Forget about rejected by Trump. Like you would get rejected by Trump in that moment, but like they still are aware that in that rejection, more people would choose Trump.
I think a fascinating. I have to roll it up because I have to go to to watch the game. But a fascinating sort of fly on the wall reality show would be as Trump becomes less and less interested in actually governing and like being in the room when things are decided. To watch like all the infighting in the back room stuff going 100%. On between like Vance and Rubio.
That's why it would be a great reality show. All of that.
Really exciting.
Because the Vance faction and the Rubio faction, they hate each other, right? And you know, Vance is trying to pander to the Groyper wing of the far right, but he has a mixed marriage and they hate him for that, right? Like, there's so many parts of that whole thing. Have you seen a picture? I'll just leave it here with this last thing. Have you seen a picture? And I'll put it in the show notes. Have you seen a picture of the guy who was the pool cleaner dude who ran the pool company?
No.
So the White House, the pool, you know, the reflecting pool whole drama, and it turned green. And it turns out like the guy who got the no bid contract to like do it, his company is called like Green Water Systems or something like that. Like you couldn't write it any better, right?
Yeah.
and then I saw a picture of him and I was like, man, like you would not have, like if you were the casting director and you chose that guy, the producers would be like, that's a little too on the nose. Like, I know this is a comedy, but like, you're going a little too far. Like, I got to post a picture of the guy who runs Green Water Systems who fucked up the reflecting pool.
Let's do it. It's almost like when Rudy Giuliani had that hair dye coming down his face.
It's that level.
And he gave this speech at, what was it, Four Seasons Landscaping?
Like, it's amazing that wasn't the end of all of this. Because like, if you pick any of, there's 10,000 things that if you picked any one of them in isolation, it would be the dumbest thing that's ever happened in the presidency in your whole lifetime.
Right.
If you look at each one of them, it's the dumbest. Like the Four Seasons Total Landscaping is by far the dumbest thing that's ever been part of serious politics in my lifetime.
And what's crazy is they could have just canceled it.
And it's just one of 10,000 things.
When they realized that it was a landscaping company, they could have just said, it's canceled. We're going to do it next Tuesday. But they
can imagine that whole conversation. They were just like, oh shit, if we cancel it, that's also egg on our face.
But
so we have to pretend that we did it on purpose, that we knew what we were doing.
And then
we'll have to try to sell that.
Just got there and been like, there's a dildo shop and I'm in a landscaping parking lot.
Can we move the lawnmowers? Out of the frame.
I gotta take off.
All right.
Happy World Cup to you, and FIFA is
likewise.
It's true.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.